Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where we chat with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And I'm excited to be here with Arnell. Arnell, what's happening?
What's happening, Duncan? What's up? And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We have a great show lined up for you today, talking with Sid, co-founder of the Wild Bay Kombucha. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we have mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
You guys, I'm so excited to have Sid Sharma here from Wild Kombucha, not only because he's cool and he's done some amazing things and he's going to share his story to inspire us, but also because this is like an international story. It's like cross-cultural, cultures coming together, bringing something amazing to the world, and also their mission, which we'll get into. So with no further ado, my man Sid, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Super cool. Let's just gonna tell people about Wild Kombucha and you know what it is and how it all started.
Yeah, so Wild Bay Kombucha really came out of a family recipe. So Sergio and Adam, my two co-founders, they grew up making kombucha. Their parents were making it from a very young age. And it really, we took that family recipe and made it our own. Adam did a ton of experimentation with it. And it really just started as a passion and a hobby. We rented the side of a juice shop in Baltimore in 2015. And just started knocking on the doors of local stores, really anyone willing to talk to us and carry the product. About 6 months in, we landed Whole Foods locally, and that's really when we decided to dive in, and it's grown a decent bit since then. We're in about 1,200 stores in 10 states, and we're on tap in WeWork locations across the country.
Very cool. You also have an engineering background, so how did you make that transition from engineering into kombucha? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so my background's technically in biochemistry. So not engineering, but engineering adjacent in the science. So the way I made that jump was completely random. I made the jump from biochemistry to more of the environmental side after I went to graduate school. But the jump from, the energy sector, energy space to kombucha and food and beverage was completely random. I saw it as an excuse to spend time with some of my closest friends and a cool way to spend some time that's different than just meeting at a bar or restaurant. I had really no vision of the growth that was going to come or where we would be 8 years from then, which is where we are now.
So you guys sound... Oh, go ahead, Duncan.
No, you first.
I was going to ask, you mentioned that you guys got into Whole Foods just 6 months after you got started, just, doing door-to-door type of sales. And why do you think that you guys have grown so quickly? Not only from that point of getting into Whole Foods at just 6 months, but since then, you guys have experienced a lot of exponential growth. What do you think has contributed to that?
I think the initial getting into Whole Foods and that initial growth was really just driven by having an incredible product. Like, we truly believe we make the best balanced kombucha, one that a seasoned drinker will enjoy and a new drinker will enjoy. And most importantly, it's, a style kombucha that you will finish. As we grew, obviously it became a little bit more strategic, a little bit more unique of an approach that I think really ties into marketing. So our focus was on saturating the area. So we went into as many cafes as we could in a single neighborhood. cafes, restaurants, yoga studios, bars on tap, really anywhere that made sense to build brand awareness, because then customers in the area really felt like, oh man, we see this brand everywhere. I'm interested in trying it. And then when they walk into your Whole Foods or grocery store, it's no longer product discovery. It's let me go grab this kombucha that I already know I love.
That's really fascinating. And so when you were going in, did you have the kombucha samples with you, or you had like a big flask, or what were you doing?
So we would have just individual bottles in a SAG cooler. Very simple, right? You have some small sample cups in the side pocket, and you pour it. And the way we got into Whole Foods back then was, before Whole Foods was a part of Amazon, it was a little bit more grassroots, and the regional buyer would have to visit every single store periodically. So we knew if we went to the store every day for about a month, we had a pretty good chance of running into the guy. And we conveniently ran into him. We conveniently happened to have some samples on us. And we were able to sample the product to him. He loved it and decided to bring us in with a launch date of March 2016. So it took about a year from when we started to officially get it on the shelf.
That's phenomenal. And Arnell, let me tell you that this guy, Sid Sharma, he's a very dynamic guy. I mean, he introduced Mayor Bloomberg in one of the campaign speeches. I mean, it's happening.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. So I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, and I was lucky enough to get chosen to introduce Make Bloomberg at an event they held in DC.
That's phenomenal. So and I think you touched on this already. We're a little bit geeky about this kind of stuff, but you mentioned that the kombucha product is both accessible to a new kombucha drinker or to a seasoned drinker. What do you think some of the things that really differentiate you all from the competition?
I think one massive thing is the balance of flavors, right? We select flavors that balance that natural vinegar tone of kombucha. So you'll get that flavor, but you're not getting it in separate, essentially in separate doses, right? You're not experiencing strawberry and then kombucha. You're experiencing a drink that really comes together like within the palate.
Got it. Or now it's your turn.
Yeah. What do you see happening in the kombucha space as far as like industry trends, things that you see that are coming up in general?
There's definitely a few things I've seen. One, what I really view the kombucha industry very similarly as the craft beer industry. I think you're going to see some consolidation, and then you'll see players that are doing things in a unique way continue to succeed. One unfortunate thing I've seen in the kombucha industry as well is there's some more pasteurized products that are claiming to be kombucha, but in my humble opinion, if you pasteurize it, it's no longer kombucha.
That's totally interesting. And do you see like some of the kombucha players like basically like extending themselves in a parallel direction into like seltzers?
Yes. Yeah, you definitely seen a lot of that. People making, probiotic sodas or seltzer or, other products that make sense. And we did a similar thing. So we expanded into the yerba mate space with our Acaro line. And that really made a lot of sense for us due to the similar equipment, right? Kombucha is made with tea. So we have brewing equipment, the ability to brew with loose leaf ingredients. Yerba mate is brewed in a very similar way. So we were able to bring, pretty nice, authentic product.
Nice. What about people who are not as familiar with kombucha, what would you say are some of the health benefits, or what would you tell them about the health benefits of it?
I'd love to start with just how kombucha is made, because it's such a beautifully simple process. So we make tea just like you would on a stove, and then we add a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast known as a SCOBY, and that ferments the tea over the course of a few weeks. We add different organic juices to create our flavors, and then the product's bottled. So if you walk into a kombucha facility, it looks a lot like a hybrid between, a beer brewery and a food processing facility.
That's super.
And then, oh, go ahead.
Well,
I was going to say, and in terms of the health benefits, when we eat, in our gut, we have naturally occurring flora that helps us digest food and regulate the environment of our stomach. So when we consume things like white flour, or even more straightforwardly, you take antibiotics, you're really flushing your body of a lot of these beneficial bacteria. So fermented foods like kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir really help us replenish those naturally occurring bacteria.
That's really interesting, because I think that you're saying I want to start where how kombucha is made is so interesting, because I do feel that there are people that have a super negative perception of kombucha. I think, well, first of all, back in the day, like when I say back in the day, 20 years ago, couldn't even find kombucha most places. So
yeah, I think the shift there is really because of how the American diet is changing. I think people are realizing that, what you put in your body is probably the most proactive way to give yourself more longevity or take care of your health over the long term.
And it's interesting because, I've heard of, I haven't had a kombucha flight anywhere, but I've heard of people talking about, I went to New York and I had a kombucha flight, and I'm like, damn, I want that. We sometimes do our own, my significant other and I will do a kombucha flight at home, but I just think the perception has changed. It's going down into the grassroots. And the moment you start seeing like these sophisticated, elegant kind of things happening in restaurants, that the movement has taken off, right? So you're seeing that as well, with like restaurants doing interesting things on their zero proof menus.
Completely, and I think it's extended beyond the zero proof as well. We're incorporated in a lot of cocktails at different bars, and I think giving people that opportunity to not only be a major part of their non-alcoholic menu, but a piece of their alcoholic as well, will just continue to increase the number of people that are going to consume kombucha.
That's super cool, Sid. Now, a big part of what we like to focus on is the mission, and you guys seem to have like an amazing mission there. Tell us, what the mission is and how you selected this organization.
So our mission is we give 1% of all sales to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. I think one thing that's important to highlight is it's 1% of sales and not 1% of profits, because sales cannot be manipulated. It is a part of your revenue. It is that 1% of that top line number. And so we give 1% to protect local wildlife habitats. And as all three of us grew up in this area, all three of us, love the outdoors, whether it's hiking or, I enjoy rock climbing or spending some time on the Chesapeake Bay. So for us, who are in an inherently, consuming industry where, we have to use something like a corrugated box to put our bottles in. We have to use glass bottles, which use water to be recycled. We knew we wanted to give back to something that essentially contradicts that impact of certain aspects of the business.
That's super interesting. And for those people that, I know Americans have notoriously bad geography. There, I said it. So for people that don't know where the Chesapeake Bay, where is that?
So the Chesapeake Bay watershed is located right off of the coast of Maryland. Maryland's really the heart of it. It does extend south into Virginia as well.
And it's a historic place. I think that's the other piece of it. So,
it's the largest. It's technically the largest estuary in the world.
Nice. It seems like you really enjoy. It seems like you really enjoy the outdoors and being in nature, and it's obviously a really big part of brand. How do you like to enjoy your kombucha, and do you enjoy going to the bay and drinking, bringing some bottles and sharing it with people? How do you normally like to enjoy it?
So I mostly will pair my kombucha with a meal, because I really enjoy that aspect of it, right? Like I don't drink much alcohol, so being able to create pairings in a different way is really fun for me. I do love, outside on a hot day, drinking a kombucha is pretty incredible. And we have some flavors that are really conducive to that, whether it's our mango peach or strawberry lavender. Both are awesome when it's just scalding hot out.
And going into flavors, what is your favorite flavor?
Oh man, that's like asking someone to pick their favorite child. I would say there's probably 3 flavors that I drink the most out of the entire lineup. And those are our elderberry, our ginger, and our strawberry lavender.
Let me ask you this, Sid. You have piqued our interest. You said you like to do the pairing of the kombucha with the meal. You didn't say what the food is.
Oh man, it varies so much. If I'm going to be honest, my wife Jess makes way more food than I do. Mostly just due to timing, because I do love cooking. So on weekends, I really try to dive in and help. But during the week, she absolutely does the heavy lifting. I eat probably 80% vegetarian or vegan. So when it comes to those, I do love to pair our kombucha with tacos. We do this really nice cauliflower tinga taco, which is perfect with our mango peach.
Love it. I'm salivating right now because I had a shake a lot. So, I wanted to also ask you. You have such an interesting background. You went to Duke, right? And you studied on the more technical side of things, and then you've made the switch into beverage. I know Arnell asked that, but let me ask a further question from what Arnell said is like, what was the benefit of having that background and coming into beverage?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's a reason they call it food science. Biochemistry is the heart of what fermentation is. It is like the way our product is made is anaerobic fermentation. If you have a core background and understand, metabolism or the citric acid cycle, it can really benefit you in this space. And I think beyond that, just the habits you learn studying some of the more challenging things in school, and it prepares you well for that grind that is entrepreneurship.
Totally love it.
What do you? I know. Sorry, Duncan. So I was gonna ask, what you've done a lot with transitioning. So you just talked about your transitioning into beverage. I know entrepreneurship is a big part of your journey. So what would you say was the most challenging thing about moving into that entrepreneurship? And then do you have any advice for other people who are aspiring functional beverage entrepreneurs? What would you tell them? What pieces of advice would you give them?
I think the toughest piece of that transition is there is no playbook. There's nothing that tells you what to do on a daily basis or how to drive your business forward on a weekly or monthly basis. Everyone knows where they want to get to a year from now, but the day-to-day, what are the building blocks that get you there? So I think figuring that out is very difficult for people. I think in today's society, it's very easy to hide behind your laptop and believe that that's how you're going to get there in food and beverage. And that's what a lot of people do, right? They'll focus on social media, or they'll focus on like certain aspects of the business that they can do from the comfort of behind their computer. But at the end of the day, beverage is all about getting liquid to lips. You need people to taste your product in order to succeed. And I think that's the thing we did really well. You know, anyone who would let us set up a table and pour samples, we did it. And that was massive in gaining traction in those early years when every sale really does move the needle.
Yeah, I love the thinking. I hadn't heard. I mean, we do work in beverage. I never heard liquid to lips before, which is super cool. I've heard ass and seeds, other things in the food space, but liquid to lips is really cool. Let me ask you this about the vertical, sharing a little bit about the vertical integration strategy that you guys have pursued.
You broke up a little bit. I caught vertical integration strategy, so I can riff off of that a little bit.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
So that was really born out of the pandemic. So we were already delivering our kombucha to a lot of local customers that had been working with us from, the early stages. During the pandemic, a lot of cafes, places like that really cut down on their beverages, on their offerings, and they were no longer able to meet their minimums that they're required to order for delivery with their other beverage suppliers. So they started asking us if we had water, if we had sparkling water. And, I'm a firm believer of listening to your customers. So we brought in some water, really just to help them out. And then next, they asked us if we had sparkling water, and we said, fine, the same company makes sparkling water, so we'll do that as well. And now that we're, post-pandemic, it's blossomed into this really awesome side of the business where we're supplying cafes throughout the Mid-Atlantic with, all of the beverages they need. And it allows us to make fantastic margins on our kombucha and yerba mate, but also support other brands in a way that they're not supported in this area, right? If you're not on a Coke truck or a Pepsi truck, it's really difficult to hit these up and down the street accounts. But through smaller distributors like us, you're able to reach them and, gain more traction, gain more awareness in the region.
I love that. And I think it's so important talking about the local businesses, local relationships. How do you take care of yourself as an entrepreneur? You have a lot of stuff going on. How do you do it?
I'm going to be honest, not well, but it's a grind. I think if anyone is extremely passionate about work-life balance, I implore you to not go into this space. Because you won't have it, right? If you're gonna, if you want to grow at a rate that most people want to grow at in this space, you can't have both. And, I think as the company's developed, I'm much better about work-life balance. I'm much better about how I take care of myself, right? Like I'll get a monthly massage, and I try to do yoga 4 to 5 times a week. I rock climb, I play soccer. Physical activity is really important to me, especially physical activity that forces me to be present. When you're climbing on a wall and you look down and you're, 150 feet up, you kind of have to be present. You can't be thinking about what's going on at the business.
Totally. Arnel, it reminds me, we have to make introductions, but it reminds me of a couple people specifically. There's David Delcourt, who's the founder of Grown Ass Foods. And, we were hanging out a couple weeks ago in Boulder, and he was like, I can't hang out on that day, man, because that's my hiking day. I can't hang out on this day because it's my soccer day. And John Badun, who's in the same space as you, I don't know if you've ever had his product, Rowdy Mermaid, he's the same way. It's like, this is my day for relaxing. And then our own Daisy Mann, who runs Arshad Bal, who runs Amrita Foods, is like, I'm not working on any of the normal stuff on Fridays. I'm doing marketing on Fridays, and I'm going to go ride my bike because I got to be there, for my family. So I really applaud you for taking care of yourself. I want, one of the things
I think you have to, because there's always something you can do in the business, right? So it's a never-ending checklist that you'll never get to the bottom of. So you can't just stop.
Totally.
That's so true.
I mean, I think the one thing we definitely want to do now actually is, thank you. Not thank you for coming on the podcast, although we are thanking you for coming on the podcast. But, as a leader, I'm sure, you don't get thanked enough for what you're doing. I mean, you're taking a lot of risks. You got to focus 100% on this, as you were saying. There's a lot of sacrifices that go into this. And, as leaders, just candidly, we don't get enough people saying thank you. So thank you for not only making the world better, but for even giving a lot of that back, and it just, I don't know, what else do you want to add to that? Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, we just appreciate it, and also just changing the lives of people, which Duncan already said, but health and wellness and getting people to make healthier, more conscious decisions. It definitely is extremely important.
I was going to say, I appreciate you, thanking me for it. But, at the end of the day, this is what I signed up for versus I would be thanking my wife because she didn't sign up for this, and you didn't have to carry so much weight at home because of the work I'm doing outside. So I'll pass on that thank you to her. But I do appreciate it. And I mean, for me, it's been really rewarding to be able to, build something with friends I'm so close with, build it the way we want to build it, and provide jobs in our community, right? As a company that, you asked me about the vertical integration, as a company that manufactures and distributes, one of the most important things that does is create jobs. You're creating jobs. You're not just acting as a brand. You're making a difference in your community. And as we grow, those opportunities grow. And Baltimore isn't a city that's absolutely full of opportunity for everyone. And we are located in probably one of the most disadvantaged parts of the city in Northwest Baltimore.
Tell us, where can people find your product? So people who are tuning in, where can they go to find you? They want to give you a try.
So I think the best opportunities probably are yerba mate. So our Icaro yerba mate, our website's just icarot.com, ICARO, and we ship nationwide. There's a variety pack, so you can try all 3 flavors. Soon to be 4. We're releasing a raspberry, and our other flavors are mint, lemon sage, and hibiscus, and it's brewed with all loose leaf organic ingredients.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, heading out, this episode is brought to you today by Firebelly Marketing. Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. Thanks, Sid.
Thanks again, Sid. Thanks for coming on and giving us your time and sharing your knowledge, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show, where we feature founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage companies. It's been an awesome episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.